Some people will break you and then call you difficult when you bleed. But the truth is, forgiveness doesn't mean you let them hand you the knife again. Forgiveness is freedom, not permission. Those words carry a quiet kind of thunder, don't they? Because for so long we've been told that forgiveness means letting people back in, smiling through the ache, pretending nothing happened. But real forgiveness is something far more sacred. It is a private ceremony between you and your soul. It's not a door you open to those who hurt you again. It's a window you open to let light back into yourself. There's a difference between forgiving someone and giving them access to you. You can release the anger without re-entering the storm. You can make peace in your heart and still decide that some people have lost the privilege of standing near your peace. That is the wisdom that comes from growing through pain instead of getting trapped inside it. Forgiveness is not saying it's okay, because sometimes it wasn't okay. What they did cut deep. It bruised your trust. It left a shadow in places that once held sunlight. But forgiveness says, I will not let this wound define my joy anymore. You take back your narrative. You stop rehearsing the moment you were broken, and you start remembering that you survived it. See, pain loves company. It whispers, hold on to me a little longer. Keep replaying it. Keep resenting. Don't let go. But forgiveness looks pain in the eye and says, your time is over. It does not erase the past. It simply refuses to let the past erase you. Many people think forgiving means weakness, as if it's bowing down to the ones who hurt you. But there is nothing weak about choosing peace in a world that feeds on vengeance. It takes strength to unclench a fist. It takes courage to stop waiting for an apology that may never come. When you forgive, you are not excusing the behavior. You are declaring your heart too precious to be ruled by someone else's cruelty. Forgiveness is freedom because it releases you from emotional debt. When you hold anger, you're still tied to the person who wronged you. Every thought, every bitter replay keeps you connected to their actions. But when you forgive, the rope snaps. You no longer carry them with you into new days. You begin to breathe again. But let's make one thing clear. Freedom does not mean returning to the same hands that hurt you. It does not mean pretending nothing changed. Forgiveness can walk hand in hand with boundaries. You can forgive someone from across an ocean if that's what it takes to stay safe. You can bless them and still block them. You can let them go in love without ever letting them back into your life. Forgiveness is not permission. You don't owe anyone access simply because you found grace in your heart. You can wish them healing, yet protect your peace. You can love them from a distance, yet never again step back into the fire that burned you. Because love without wisdom becomes self-destruction. And forgiveness without discernment becomes an invitation for more pain. The truth is, not everyone who says, I'm sorry, has changed. Some people apologize to reopen doors, not to rebuild trust. So forgive them, yes, but pay attention to patterns. Forgive the words, but remember the actions. Forgive the past, but protect the present. Because your peace is not a public park for everyone to trample through. It is a garden tended by the lessons you've learned, guarded by the boundaries you've built. When you forgive, you take your heart back from their hands. You stop waiting for closure. You stop asking, why did they do it? And start asking, what did it teach me? That's the moment you rise, because the person who hurt you no longer gets to control how you feel, how you speak, or how you live. You become your own healer. You learn that forgiveness is not about letting people off the hook. It's about taking yourself off it. Think about it. How many nights have we lost to anger, replaying conversations that will never change? How many days have we wasted trying to make sense of cruelty? But freedom whispers, you don't have to carry this anymore. And when you finally listen, something shifts. The chains that once felt permanent begin to fall away. Forgiveness allows you to travel lighter. It makes space for joy to return. You begin to laugh again, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer chained to what broke you. You start to see beauty in small things. The sunrise, the sound of your own laughter, the peace of being alone and unbothered. That's what forgiveness does. It makes room for new beginnings. But remember this, forgiving someone doesn't mean you have to forget. You can forgive and still remember how it felt. You can forgive and still recognize that they're not safe for your soul. Forgiveness clears your heart, not your memory. Forgetting the lesson means risking the same hurt again, and life is too precious to keep learning the same painful lesson twice. You have every right to draw the line between healing and harm. You have every right to say, I wish you well, but I'm moving on. Because not everyone deserves a second chance to wound you. Some people were lessons, not lifetimes. You can honor the lesson without re-entering the classroom. Sometimes forgiveness looks like silence. You don't owe them explanations. You don't owe them access. You don't owe them your time. You owe yourself peace. So forgive quietly. Let your freedom be your loudest response, because some stories don't need to be rewritten. They need to be released. Forgiveness is the art of loving yourself enough to let go. It's waking up one morning and realizing that the ache has softened, that the memory no longer stings, that the name no longer controls your heartbeat. That's the moment you'll know you are free. You'll stop asking for closure and start giving it to yourself. You'll stop hoping they'll see your pain and start seeing your own growth. You'll understand that forgiveness is not about making peace with them. It's about making peace with what happened. It's saying, I'm done carrying what was never mine to hold. Freedom begins when you stop trying to fix what you didn't break. It begins when you understand that the story is already over and your healing doesn't depend on someone else's regret. The power is back in your hands. So forgive because you deserve peace. But remember, forgiveness is freedom, not permission. Freedom to walk away, freedom to rebuild, freedom to live unchained from the past. And the next time someone asks for your forgiveness, know that you can grant it without surrendering your boundaries. You can love them through the distance. You can wish them well and still never look back. That is the kind of forgiveness that heals without reopening old wounds. That is the kind of forgiveness that doesn't ask you to lose yourself to keep the peace. It's the kind that lets your heart breathe again, without fear, without bitterness, without apology. Because the truest act of forgiveness is not letting them back in. It's finally letting yourself be free. Remember wisely. Those two words carry a wisdom that time often tries to teach us after pain has done its work. To remember wisely means not to live in the past, but to walk with its lessons. It means you refuse to become bitter, yet you refuse to become blind. Because forgetting what hurt you doesn't make you healed. It makes you vulnerable to the same pain wearing a different face. There is power in remembering and there is peace in remembering wisely. Some people will tell you to forget everything, to start over with a clean heart, as if memory is an obstacle to forgiveness. But your memory is not your enemy, it's your map. It guides you away from the places where you once bled. It reminds you where the road cracked so you don't fall in again. Remembering wisely is not about holding grudges. It's about holding knowledge. It's about looking back with understanding instead of anger. You can revisit the past without reopening its wounds. You can look at who hurt you and see not only the pain, but also the person you became because of it. When you remember wisely, the past becomes a teacher, not a trap. There was a time you trusted too easily. You gave love without boundaries. You believed promises simply because they were spoken softly. And that innocence wasn't foolish. It was beautiful. But when it met betrayal, you learned. You learned that love without discernment becomes self-harm. You learned that forgiveness doesn't mean allowing the same disrespect to repeat. Remembering wisely means you no longer apologize for protecting your peace. Life has a way of circling lessons back to us until we truly learn them. The same kinds of people, the same red flags, the same disappointments. They all come in different forms, testing whether you have learned to remember wisely. Each time you ignore what you already know, you delay your own peace. But each time you pause, reflect, and choose better, you honor your growth. To remember wisely is to know the difference between healing and forgetting. Healing acknowledges the wound, tends to it, and learns from it. Forgetting pretends the wound was never there. But the heart doesn't work that way. What you refuse to face, you repeat. What you avoid, you attract again in another name, another voice, another heartbreak. So let memory be your compass, not your chain. You can forgive and still remember who showed you their true colors. You can love someone and still understand that their presence in your life was temporary. You can miss the moments that made you happy and still accept that those moments are gone. That's what remembering wisely feels like. It's gentle, it's clear, it's firm. It doesn't live in resentment, it lives in awareness. Sometimes we hold on to people because we remember how they used to be. But memory can be deceiving when it's fueled by longing. Remember wisely, and you'll see the difference between who they were and who they are. Nostalgia has a way of painting pain with soft colors, making us believe it wasn't so bad. But wise memory reminds you that you cried more nights than you smiled, that you were lonely even in their company, that peace left you long before they did. Remember wisely so you don't confuse comfort with love. Remember wisely so you don't return to what hurt you just because it feels familiar. Some wounds whisper, "You've been here before." And that whisper is not bitterness, it's guidance. It's your soul saying, "We've already paid this price once. We're not paying it again." It's easy to romanticize the past. It's harder to see it as it was, stripped of illusion. But wisdom asks you to see clearly, to accept that not everyone meant you well, even if you loved them deeply, to understand that not every ending was unfair. Some were necessary. And that's where remembering wisely becomes your shield. It guards your heart, not with walls, but with truth. When you remember wisely, you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What did this teach me?" You shift from victimhood to growth. You realize that pain was not punishment, it was preparation. You stop running from your past and start walking alongside it, letting it remind you how strong you've become. Some memories will always sting, but wise remembering means you no longer pick at the wound. You acknowledge the pain, you thank it for its lesson, and you let it settle into your story. Every scar becomes a note in the melody of your strength. Every heartbreak becomes proof that you can rise again. Remember wisely, and you'll find that pain loses its power. It can no longer control your emotions or dictate your choices. You'll see the same situations appear, and this time you'll know how to handle them. You won't chase validation. You won't beg to be understood. You won't argue with people committed to misunderstanding you. You'll simply step away, not in anger, but in wisdom. To remember wisely is to forgive without forgetting your worth. It's to hold compassion without sacrificing your boundaries. It's to say, "I understand why you did it, but I will not let you do it again." It's balance, it's maturity, it's peace wrapped in strength. There will be people who accuse you of being cold because you no longer tolerate what you once accepted. But they don't know how many nights it took for you to learn the difference. They don't know how many times you broke trying to keep the peace while losing yourself. Remember wisely, and you'll never need to explain your silence again. Sometimes, remembering wisely means walking away without hatred. It means closing the door softly, not slamming it, because wisdom knows that anger still ties you to the past. But quiet understanding cuts the cord completely. You leave, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally care enough about yourself. Memory is not meant to keep you trapped. It's meant to keep you aware. Every lesson you've learned is a step toward freedom. Every mistake you've survived is a page in your growth. Remember them all, but hold them gently. Don't let them harden you. Let them guide you. There will come a day when you look back and realize that every moment, even the painful ones, built something inside you. Strength, wisdom, clarity. You'll see how the pieces fit, how the tears watered something beautiful in you. That's the gift of remembering wisely. You begin to see purpose in places you once saw only pain. So, remember. Remember who you were before they hurt you. Remember who you became because you healed. Remember the lessons your scars taught you. But most of all, remember wisely, because the past cannot hurt you anymore when you've turned it into wisdom. And wisdom, once earned, becomes the light that leads you forward, one peaceful step at a time. Boundaries are sacred. They are the invisible lines that protect your peace, the quiet rules that remind you that self-respect is not arrogance, it's awareness. Too many people grow up believing that kindness means endless availability, that love means self-sacrifice, that forgiveness means staying where the hurt began. But the truth is, love without boundaries destroys the one who gives it. To love deeply, you must also guard wisely, because peace is not found in pleasing everyone. It's found in honoring yourself. Boundaries are not walls that shut people out. They are doors with locks that open only for those who come with respect. They are not built from anger, but from clarity. They don't say, "I hate you." They say, "I love myself enough to protect what I've built." The people who are meant for you will never be threatened by your boundaries. They will recognize them as a sign of your self-awareness. But the ones who benefited from your silence, your exhaustion, your guilt, they will call your boundaries selfish. And that's how you'll know they were never here for your peace, only for your access. We are often taught that setting limits makes us unkind. We're told that good people always say yes, always forgive, always show up no matter how much it costs. But boundaries are not cruelty, they are clarity. They tell the world where you end and where someone else begins. Without them, you become a reflection of everyone's demands instead of the author of your own life. There comes a moment when you realize that your energy is sacred. Your time, your love, your listening ear, all of it has value. And the more you give it away to people who drain it, the less you have for what truly matters. Boundaries remind you that not every call deserves an answer. Not every apology deserves a second chance. Not every invitation deserves a yes. When you say no to something that disturbs your peace, you are saying yes to yourself. People will test your limits. They will see how far they can go before you break. Some will disguise manipulation as love, guilt as care, control as concern. But wisdom learns to listen not just to words, but to patterns. You begin to see who respects your no and who tries to argue with it. And that's when you learn one of the most sacred truths. People who love you will honor your boundaries, not challenge them. Boundaries are sacred because they teach others how to treat you. You can't expect someone to respect limits that you never express. Silence, though peaceful, can become an accomplice to disrespect. You teach the world your worth by what you tolerate. And when you finally decide that your peace matters more than their comfort, you take back the pen that writes your life story. Sometimes the hardest boundaries are not with others, they are with yourself. Learning to stop over-explaining, to stop chasing closure, to stop saying yes when your soul says no. These are the boundaries that transform your inner world. You begin to realize that you don't owe anyone constant access to your energy. You don't have to fix people who refuse to grow. You don't have to keep breaking yourself to keep the peace. Sacred boundaries mean you can love someone and still say, I can't let you treat me this way. They mean you can care deeply and still choose distance. They mean you understand that protecting your peace doesn't make you cold, it makes you conscious. You stop expecting everyone to understand your limits because you know they are not meant for their comfort. They are meant for your healing. When you start enforcing boundaries, you will lose some people. You'll lose the ones who thrived on your lack of them. You'll lose those who loved your compliance but never your truth. But don't mistake that loss for loneliness. That space they leave behind is where your peace will grow. That silence they leave behind is where your voice will return. The right people will meet you where your peace begins. It takes courage to say no more. It takes strength to walk away from those who can't meet you in respect. But it takes even greater wisdom to do it without hate, to simply understand that peace cannot coexist with constant chaos. That's the power of sacred boundaries. They don't punish, they protect. Sometimes you will feel guilty for putting yourself first. That's what years of self-neglect teach us. To equate exhaustion with worth and sacrifice with love. But peace is not earned through suffering. You don't have to prove your goodness by letting people overstep your soul. Boundaries don't make you distant, they make you honest. And honesty is the deepest form of love you can give to yourself and to others. Boundaries also reveal the truth about your relationships. When you start honoring your needs, the right people will adapt. They'll ask, what makes you feel safe? They'll listen when you say, I need space. They'll understand that love isn't measured by proximity, but by respect. But the wrong people will twist your boundaries into accusations. They'll say you've changed. They'll call you cold. They'll miss the version of you who tolerated too much. And you'll have to let them, because growth often looks like loss to those who benefited from your silence. Sacred boundaries are not about control, they are about balance. They don't mean you stop loving, they mean you love without losing yourself. You learn to show compassion without letting it consume you. You learn to forgive without reopening the door. You learn that you can wish someone well and still walk your own way. As you evolve, your boundaries will evolve with you. What you once accepted will begin to feel heavy. What you once tolerated will start to hurt. That's not you being harsh, that's your soul recognizing its worth. You are no longer willing to trade your peace for connection or your dignity for approval. You begin to understand that not everything that wants access to you deserves it. Boundaries are sacred because they allow you to live from truth rather than fear. They let you show up whole, not half empty. They keep you grounded in self-respect, even when the world pulls you toward chaos. They remind you that protecting your peace is not a rejection of others, it's an affirmation of self. You can still be kind and say no. You can still be loving and walk away. You can still forgive and never return. You can still shine without explaining your light. That's what sacred boundaries do. They free you from the need to justify your peace. When you start living with boundaries, life becomes quieter but fuller. Fewer people, deeper conversations, less noise, more clarity. You begin to breathe again without waiting for permission. You begin to feel safe inside your own presence. That safety, that quiet, that stillness, that's what boundaries create. They bring you home to yourself. So hold your peace close. Guard your energy as something holy. The world may not understand it, but your spirit will, because boundaries are not barriers, they are blessings. They are the invisible prayers that say, I have learned to honor my heart. And that is the beginning of every kind of freedom worth having. Healing is personal. It is not a straight road, not a calendar event, not something you can measure by how quickly you stop crying or how often you smile again. Healing moves in its own rhythm. Some days it whispers softly, other days it roars through your chest. And the truth is, no one can heal for you. No one can tell you when to let go, when to forgive, or when the pain should finally stop hurting. Healing is not a performance. It's an intimate, invisible process that belongs only to you. People will tell you to move on, to cheer up, to stop dwelling. They will say, it's been long enough. But they don't feel the echoes in your heart. They don't know what it costs you to get out of bed, to act okay when memories keep replaying behind your eyes. Healing is personal because no one else was there when you broke in the quiet, when the world kept spinning but your heart stood still. Only you know the shape of your pain. Only you know what it takes to survive it. We live in a world that glorifies strength and hides sorrow. Everyone wants to see the glow up, the comeback, the part where you rise, but not the nights you cried yourself to sleep, not the moments you doubted you'd ever feel joy again. But healing doesn't happen under a spotlight. It happens in silence, in solitude, in those small moments when you choose to try again. Healing is the bravery of getting through the day when your soul feels tired. It's the decision to believe that life can still be beautiful even when it hasn't been kind. No two healings look the same. Some people find peace in prayer, others find it in walking alone beneath the sky. Some write, some weep, some run, some simply rest. There's no correct way to heal. What works for one heart may not work for another, and that's okay. Healing is not a race or a comparison, it's a reclamation. You're taking back pieces of yourself that pain tried to claim. You're remembering who you were before the hurt and who you're still becoming after it. Healing is personal because it asks you to sit with what you'd rather avoid. It doesn't happen when you hide your pain behind smiles or distractions. It begins when you stop pretending, when you face the truth of what happened, the loss, the betrayal, the disappointment, and let yourself feel it all without shame. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel. But when you finally allow the pain to speak, it begins to loosen its hold on you. You begin to see that the tears were never weakness, they were release. Some days, healing feels like progress. Other days, it feels like regression. You might think you're over it until a song plays or a memory surfaces, and suddenly the ache returns. But that doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. It means your heart still remembers, and memory is not the enemy. It's part of the process. Healing doesn't erase your past. It teaches you how to live with it. The journey of healing is deeply personal because it is also deeply spiritual. It changes your relationship with yourself. You start to notice the parts of you that need tenderness, not judgment. You begin to forgive yourself for what you didn't know, for the ways you tried to survive, for staying too long or leaving too soon. You begin to speak to yourself with kindness. That's when true healing begins, not when everything is fixed, but when you finally stop blaming yourself for being broken. There will be people who won't understand your healing. They'll tell you you're overreacting, that it wasn't that bad, that you should just forget. But you don't owe anyone an explanation for the way you heal. Your healing doesn't need to make sense to anyone else. Sometimes you'll need space, silence, or solitude. Sometimes you'll need to cry in peace without someone rushing you to stop. Honor that. Healing is not about pleasing others. It's about making yourself whole again. Healing asks for patience. It asks for time. It doesn't follow schedules or deadlines. There is no exact day when the pain disappears. It just softens. One morning you'll realize the memory doesn't sting as sharply. One evening you'll laugh genuinely again. One day you'll see that what once broke you now simply teaches you. That's the quiet miracle of healing. It doesn't announce its arrival, it just slowly changes how you breathe. You don't have to know where you're going to start healing. You just have to decide that you're tired of carrying the same pain. Healing begins with small acts. Choosing rest over overthinking, choosing gratitude over resentment, choosing hope over hopelessness. It's not about erasing what hurt you, it's about building something stronger within you because of it. Healing is also the art of acceptance, not of what was done to you, but of what is. Acceptance doesn't mean approval, it means acknowledging that the past cannot be rewritten, but the future still belongs to you. When you stop fighting the past, you free your hands to build the present. Acceptance is the soil where peace grows. Sometimes healing means forgiving those who never apologized. It means releasing the anger that has lived too long in your chest, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness is not for them. It's the key that unlocks your own heart. And sometimes forgiveness means forgiving yourself for trusting the wrong person, for not leaving sooner, for being human. You did the best you could with what you knew. Healing begins when you finally believe that. Healing will change you. It will soften you in some places and strengthen you in others. It will teach you compassion, not only for others, but for yourself. You'll look at your old wounds and realize they became windows through which you see the world differently now. You'll understand that the pain that once silenced you also taught you how to speak truth. You'll see that breaking wasn't the end, it was the beginning of your rebuilding. Don't rush it. Don't demand that it look beautiful all the time. Healing is messy, unpredictable, non-linear. Some days you'll feel light and free. Other days, you'll feel like the same storm that once tore you apart, but that's okay. You are allowed to be a work in progress and still be worthy of love. You are allowed to be healing and still be whole. Healing is personal because it is proof of your humanity. It's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming real. It's about finding the courage to live again after loss, to trust again after betrayal, to love again after heartbreak. And no one can dictate when or how that happens. Your healing belongs to you, the pace, the path, the process. One day you'll wake up and realize that you've made peace with what once felt unbearable. The wound will no longer define you. It will simply be part of your story. You'll look back and see that every tear watered something sacred within you. You'll see that healing didn't erase your scars. It turned them into wisdom. And in that moment, you'll understand healing was never about becoming who you were before the pain. It was about becoming someone stronger, softer, and wiser because of it. Because healing is personal. It's your private miracle. It's your quiet victory. And it happens, not all at once, but in every small moment you choose to keep going, no matter how heavy your heart once was. Love can coexist with distance. That's something we learn only after life stretches us between what we want and what we must accept. We are taught to believe that love always means closeness, that if someone loves you, they must stay beside you, call you every day, make their presence known. But real love, mature, deep, and selfless, understands that sometimes the heart must love from afar. That distance doesn't mean absence, it means evolution. Sometimes love grows not in holding tighter, but in letting go gently. Love can exist even when two souls no longer share the same space. It can live in silence, in memory, in prayer, in peace. Because love is not always about proximity, it's about connection. It's not always about possession, it's about respect. You can love someone and still understand that being together is no longer right. You can care for someone deeply and still know that walking away is the only way to honor both hearts. We are often told that if love is true, it should conquer all. But sometimes love is not meant to conquer, it's meant to release. Sometimes the most loving act is to step back, to give space, to stop trying to fix what time has already changed. Love is not ownership. It's not about forcing a bond to remain when it's meant to breathe. Love that demands control is not love. It's fear wearing affection's mask. Real love has open hands. It allows two souls to evolve, even if that evolution leads them apart. Distance does not destroy love. It reveals its depth. When someone's absence still brings warmth to your thoughts instead of bitterness to your heart, that's love maturing. When you can wish them peace without wanting to rewrite the story, that's love healing. Distance teaches you that love is not measured in miles or messages. It's measured in sincerity, in the quiet way your heart still hopes good things for them, even when they're no longer yours. Sometimes distance is the teacher love needed. It shows you what attachment hid. It strips away the noise, the daily rituals, the illusion of permanence. You begin to see love for what it truly is, a choice, not a condition. You learn that love can stay pure even when the relationship changes form. The bond may shift from romance to gratitude, from togetherness to understanding, but the essence of love remains untouched. It simply becomes quieter, wiser, softer. You can love someone from a distance and still be whole. You can carry their presence in your heart without needing to hold their hand. That's not loss, it's transformation. Some people were never meant to stay forever. They came to awaken something inside you, to teach you how deeply you can feel, how bravely you can give. When they go, love doesn't vanish. It takes a new shape. It becomes memory. It becomes prayer. It becomes grace. Distance also protects what would otherwise be destroyed by proximity. Sometimes being too close brings out the worst in two people. Familiarity breeding conflict. Affection turning into resentment. Space allows clarity. It allows you to love without the noise of ego or expectation. From afar, you see more clearly who they are, who you are, and what truly connects you. You learn to appreciate without needing to possess. You learn to value peace over presence. Love that survives distance is love that has matured beyond need. It doesn't beg, it doesn't chase, it doesn't demand constant reassurance. It simply exists, a quiet flame that doesn't burn wildly anymore, but glows steadily. It's the kind of love that wishes well, that prays in silence, that understands that goodbyes don't erase what was real. Sometimes distance is chosen. You decide to step back because staying close would mean losing yourself. You choose space, not because the love is gone, but because peace matters more. And in that choice, love doesn't end, it deepens. Because real love doesn't want to harm, it doesn't want to suffocate, it doesn't want to control. It wants both hearts to heal, even if that means they heal separately. There's a beauty in loving someone from afar without resentment. To look at their life moving forward and still feel warmth instead of bitterness, that's a form of strength only distance can teach. It means your love has outgrown its ego. It means your heart has learned compassion without possession. Love that can coexist with distance is love that no longer needs proof. It simply is. It's in the way you think of them when you see something beautiful and smile quietly. It's in the way you remember their laughter without aching for their return. It's in the way you know they're okay, and that's enough. That's love, mature, peaceful, steady. It doesn't demand to be felt back. It's content simply existing in your heart as something pure. You can still send love to someone who is no longer part of your world. You can still thank them in your prayers for the lessons they brought. Because love is energy. It doesn't die, It transforms. It moves from need to gratitude, from longing to acceptance. Distance teaches you to stop clinging to form and start trusting the essence. There will be moments when you miss them deeply. That's natural. The heart remembers softness. But missing someone doesn't mean you need to return. Love can coexist with distance because sometimes love has already done what it came to do. Its purpose was to teach, to awaken, to strengthen. And once that purpose is fulfilled, love remains as light, not as weight. Distance helps love breathe. When you no longer see the person every day, you begin to see yourself again. You start to notice the spaces within you that their absence has uncovered. Those spaces are not empty, they're sacred. They are where your own growth takes root. You realize that loving from afar doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've evolved. Love that coexists with distance is not love that fades. It's love that trusts. It trusts that what was shared mattered. It trusts that even apart, something real remains. It trusts that peace can exist without presence, that connection doesn't need constant contact to be true. It's one of the hardest lessons the heart must learn, to love and still let go. To accept that sometimes loving someone means not holding them. To understand that distance doesn't make the love smaller, it makes it wiser. Love doesn't vanish when the story ends. It lingers, reshaped, still whispering blessings in the background of your life. So if you love someone but can't walk beside them anymore, let that love breathe across the distance. Don't suffocate it with what ifs or regrets. Let it be free, like wind through open windows, felt but unseen, gentle but powerful. Love can live that way, quietly, endlessly, because real love doesn't demand closeness, it honors truth. And sometimes the most profound love story is the one where both hearts find peace apart, where you love them enough to release them and yourself enough to stay whole, where you carry them softly in your soul, not as a wound, but as a prayer, because love, when it's true, does not need to stay to remain real. It can coexist with distance and still, in its quiet way, mean everything. Peace over poison, it sounds simple, but it's a choice most people never truly make, because peace is quiet, humble, patient, while poison is loud, thrilling, and familiar. We often grow up in environments where chaos feels normal, where anger feels like strength, where revenge feels like justice. But there comes a moment in every soul's journey when you must decide what kind of life you want to live, one that feeds your peace or one that keeps you poisoned. Choosing peace is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the understanding that you don't need to win every argument, respond to every insult, or carry every wound. Peace doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you start caring differently. You stop feeding what drains you. You stop matching the energy of chaos and start protecting your inner calm like sacred ground. Because the truth is, peace isn't given, it's created. And sometimes that creation begins the day you refuse to drink the poison someone else pours for you. Poison wears many faces. It can look like resentment disguised as righteousness. It can sound like gossip dressed as concern. It can feel like pride pretending to be power. But every time you choose to hold on to bitterness, every time you replay the wrongs, every time you let anger live rent-free in your mind, you are sipping poison and calling it protection. You think you're guarding your heart, but really you're hurting it. You think you're staying strong, but really you're staying stuck. Peace requires courage, the kind of courage that doesn't always look noble from the outside. Sometimes it looks like walking away mid-fight, staying silent when you could destroy someone with your words, forgiving someone who will never say sorry. It looks like refusing to participate in cycles of cruelty just because others expect you to. Peace is strength under control. It's the quiet power to say, I will not let this darkness make a home in me. The world will tempt you to choose poison because poison gives the illusion of power. It feels satisfying in the moment. The sharp words, the cold shoulder, the last laugh. But afterward it burns, it lingers, it eats away at your spirit long after the other person has forgotten the argument. Peace, on the other hand, might not feel as gratifying right away. It's slower, it's softer, but it heals you. It cleans your spirit. It allows you to breathe again. Some people think peace means pretending nothing happened. It doesn't. Peace is not denial, it's discipline. It's knowing exactly what happened, who lied, who betrayed, who broke you, and still choosing to not let that define you. Peace is remembering the wound without reliving it. It's learning the lesson without carrying the pain. That's the difference between those who grow and those who stay bitter. One releases, the other replays. One heals, the other holds on. Every day you have a choice between feeding your peace or feeding your poison. You feed peace by practicing patience, by setting boundaries, by staying kind when it would be easier to be cruel. You feed peace by choosing silence over gossip, gratitude over envy, prayer over revenge. And you feed poison every time you let someone's bitterness become your language. Every time you let your ego lead instead of your wisdom. People will misunderstand your peace. They'll call you cold, detached, or distant. Let them. They can only see through the lens of their own chaos. You don't owe anyone your peace to make them comfortable. Peace is not about approval, it's about alignment. It's about living in a way that your soul feels light again. When you stop engaging in drama, you start discovering how beautiful quiet can be, how strong peace truly feels. Peace is not a destination, and it's a decision you make moment after moment. It's a practice. You will fail some days. You'll find yourself reacting, arguing, explaining when you swore you'd stay calm. But peace is patient. It welcomes you back every time you remember. It says, try again, this time softer. And slowly you notice. What used to disturb you deeply now barely shakes you. What once took your sleep now only takes a moment. That's growth. That's peace, turning your pain into wisdom. There will always be people who try to provoke you, who feed on negativity because it gives them meaning. But you must remind yourself, you don't have to eat at every table you're invited to. Some conversations deserve your silence. Some battles deserve your absence. Some situations are best handled by peace, not participation. Walking away doesn't mean you lost. It means you refuse to poison yourself trying to prove something to someone who's not even listening. When you choose peace, you start seeing life differently. You stop expecting closure from others and start giving it to yourself. You stop chasing apologies and start finding your own healing. You stop trying to change people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Peace teaches you acceptance. Not the kind that tolerates abuse, but the kind that knows when to stop fighting what you can't fix. Poison loves control. It thrives on reaction. The moment you stop reacting, it loses its power. That's why peace is so revolutionary. It breaks the cycle. It ends the inheritance of bitterness. It teaches your heart to rest where it used to rage. And when your heart is at rest, you start to see how much of life you were missing while you were busy trying to be right. Peace is not about pretending that hurt doesn't exist. It's about not letting that hurt dictate your joy. It's knowing that forgiveness is for you, not for them. It's learning that sometimes the best revenge is a calm spirit and a quiet life. It's realizing that you can't drink poison and expect someone else to die. The only one suffering is you until you decide to stop. There will always be noise around you, the critics, the drama, the disappointments. But peace isn't found in changing the noise. It's found in changing your response. When you stop trying to control what others say or do, you start controlling what you allow inside. That's where freedom lives, in the ability to feel deeply and still stay centered, to care without carrying, to love without losing yourself. Peace over poison means you stop letting bitterness write your story. You stop rehearsing pain and start reclaiming purpose. You begin to see that peace doesn't mean the absence of problems. It means the presence of perspective. You start valuing your inner calm more than the temporary satisfaction of being right. You start protecting your mental and emotional health as the treasure it is. And soon peace becomes addictive. You begin to crave it more than chaos. You start leaving conversations that drain you, relationships that harm you, environments that poison you. You start realizing that peace isn't something you find, it's something you decide to keep. Choosing peace doesn't mean you're naive. It means you're wise enough to know that nothing is worth losing yourself over. You can love deeply and still walk away. You can forgive and still set boundaries. You can have compassion without carrying someone's poison inside you. Peace over poison. It's not a phrase, it's a lifestyle. It's a vow to protect your soul in a world that profits from your chaos. It's the courage to say, I choose peace, even if it means being misunderstood. I choose peace, even if it means walking alone for a while. Because in the end, the one who chooses peace wins the quietest, deepest kind of victory, the kind that lives in the heart long after the noise fades. Forgive and evolve. Two of the hardest things a human heart will ever learn to do. Because forgiveness asks you to release what broke you, and evolution asks you to grow beyond it. Most people forgive only with their mouths, not their hearts. They say, I'm over it, but still replay the pain in their minds, still build walls made of wounds. True forgiveness isn't a performance, it's liberation. It's not saying that what happened was right. It's saying, I will not let what happened define me any longer. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, it reclaims the future. When you forgive, you take your power back. You stop being an emotional prisoner of someone else's actions. You stop dragging old pain into new days. You stop making your heart a museum of everything that went wrong, because holding on to resentment is like carrying fire in your chest. It burns you